Humans did not fear chaos first. They feared uncertainty. And the moment humans began to ask why, the world became dangerous. Not because nature changed, but because authority did. The most threatening act in early history was not violence, it was curiosity. So something had to answer questions before questions grew teeth. That answer was myth. We are told myths were created to protect people, to explain storms, to comfort fear, to give meaning. But if myths were meant to protect, why do they speak the language of punishment? Why do gods watch instead of listen? Why is obedience rewarded but understanding ignored? Myths did not remove fear. They organized it. They took raw uncertainty and shaped it into rules. Rules into rituals. Rituals into identity. Once belief became shared, it stopped being personal. Belonging required agreement, and agreement required silence. The gods did not need to save humanity. They only needed to be believed. Because a frightened mind seeks shelter, but a convinced mind polices itself. This is why myths survived longer than truths. They asked for faith, not thought. They promised safety, not freedom. And in doing so, they built the earliest systems of control. This is not a story about destroying belief. It is a question about its original purpose. Were myths created to protect humans or to make them predictable? Humans were never born free. They were born afraid. The first human did not experience the world as beauty or wonder, but as threat. The sky made noise. The ground shook. The sun disappeared and returned without explanation. Death existed without reason, and fear was constant. But fear itself was not the problem. Fear made humans observe. Fear made them think, and thinking humans are dangerous. Because a mind that asks why will eventually ask why not. That is where freedom begins. But freedom was never the priority. Stability was, and myths were born from that need. Myths were not designed to liberate humans. They were designed to calm them, because calming fear is easier than managing freedom. When fear is soothed, the human rests. When freedom appears, the human changes. And change is uncontrollable. Myths did not teach people how to understand the world. They taught them how to stop questioning it. When storms came, they did not ask for investigation. They gave a god. When death arrived, they did not demand meaning. They offered fate. These answers were comforting because they removed responsibility. If everything is the will of the gods, then humans are not accountable. But a human without responsibility is also a human without freedom. Freedom requires choice. Choice requires uncertainty. Uncertainty requires courage. Myths eliminated uncertainty by replacing it with rules. Fear was not destroyed. It was reorganized. It was given names, faces, stories, and punishments. The chaos of existence was transformed into moral order, and once fear had structure, it could be enforced. Humans no longer feared the unknown. They feared disobedience. They feared punishment. They feared exile. This was not accidental. A free human experiments, makes mistakes, learns, and learning humans stop obeying. Myths interrupted that process. They redirected fear away from nature and toward authority. They promised safety instead of autonomy, belonging instead of independence, and people accepted the trade because freedom is lonely. Myths offered company. They whispered that you are not alone as long as you do not question. And this is why myths survived longer than truth. Truth demands thought. Myths demand faith. Truth creates movement. Myths create order, and order is easier to govern. This is why myths have always soothed fear but never offered freedom. Because freedom does not calm. It disturbs. It isolates. It demands responsibility. And myths were never built for humans who wanted to stand alone. They were built for humans who wanted to feel safe together. Gods were never introduced as protectors. They appeared as limits. From the very beginning, deities did not arrive to shield humans from danger. They arrived to define behavior. Their first function was not mercy but order. not salvation, but regulation. In early societies, nature was unpredictable and humans were fragile. Yet what truly threatened collective survival was not storms or predators. It was human unpredictability itself. Desire, violence, revenge, curiosity. These had no natural boundaries. So boundaries had to be invented, and gods became those boundaries. Gods did not simply explain the world, they told humans where to stop, what not to touch, what not to question, what not to cross. When a god speaks in myth, it rarely says you are safe. It says do not eat, do not look back, do not ask, do not challenge, do not disobey. These were not moral lessons in the modern sense. They were control mechanisms wrapped in sacred language. Because a rule spoken by a human can be debated, but a rule spoken by a god cannot. Once authority becomes divine, it stops being negotiable. This is why gods were effective. They did not need armies. They did not need constant enforcement. They lived inside the mind. Every thought became supervised. Every action weighed against invisible judgment. The gods did not patrol the streets. They occupied conscience. In this way, gods were the earliest legal systems. Before written law, before courts, before prisons, there were myths, and myths carried commandments disguised as stories. The punishment was not always immediate, but it was absolute: exile, curse, disease, death, or worse, cosmic disfavor. This created a powerful psychological cage. A human might escape a king, but could never escape a god, and so behavior was standardized. Not because people understood why, but because fear was internalized. Protection was never the goal. If protection were the goal, myths would teach adaptation, learning, and change. Instead, they taught repetition, obedience, tradition, imitation. Gods did not ask humans to grow. They asked them to remain within assigned roles: the farmer, the warrior, the ruler, the servant, each sanctified by divine order. To step outside your role was not rebellion against society. It was rebellion against the cosmos. This is how rules became destiny, and destiny became unquestionable. Truthfully, gods did protect something, but it was not humanity, it was structure. They protected hierarchy, they protected continuity, they protected predictability. Because predictable humans are manageable humans, and manageable humans create stable societies. Stable societies survive longer than free ones. This is why gods were designed to be eternal, why their laws were unchanging, why doubt was framed as sin. Because doubt threatens rules, and rules were the real divinity. When people say gods protected them, what they often mean is that gods protected the system that kept them alive, but never free. Safety was exchanged for autonomy, order for exploration, belonging for individuality, and most accepted the trade, because rules feel like protection when chaos is terrifying. But protection that forbids growth is not protection. It is containment, and this is the uncomfortable truth at the heart of mythology. Gods were not guardians standing in front of humanity. They were walls built around it. Humans feared gods more than they feared each other. And that fear was not natural. It was engineered. In early communities, humans were not strangers. They depended on one another to hunt, to survive, to endure nature. The danger did not come from the person beside you. It came from uncertainty, from hunger, from death, from the unknown. But controlling a group requires redirecting fear, because fear aimed at another human creates conflict. Fear aimed upward creates obedience. So myths lifted fear away from social relations and pointed it toward the divine. When people fear each other, society fractures. When people fear gods, society stabilizes. This is why divine fear was cultivated. It replaced interpersonal suspicion with cosmic surveillance. You did not need to watch your neighbor. The gods were already watching, and they saw everything: thoughts, actions, intentions. This shifted behavior at the deepest level. A human might lie to another human. A human might escape punishment from a ruler, but no one could hide from a god. This made divine fear more efficient than violence. It required no constant force. It turned the mind into its own prison. People did not behave because they trusted each other. They behaved because they feared invisible judgment. This also dissolved personal responsibility. If harm happened, it was not because someone chose evil. It was because the gods were angry. If injustice existed, it was fate, not human failure. This removed blame from society and placed it beyond reach. People stopped holding each other accountable. They looked upward instead, and in doing so, human relationships became secondary. Obedience replaced empathy. Rules replaced dialogue. You did not resolve conflict. You submitted to divine order. This is why gods were portrayed as jealous, watchful, and punitive. Not because humans imagined cruelty, but because fear needed a face. And that face had to be untouchable. When humans fear each other, they negotiate. When humans fear gods, they comply. This fear also equalized people. A ruler and a servant were both beneath the same gods, but only in fear, not in power. This illusion of equality strengthened hierarchy. Everyone was small, everyone was watched, and so rebellion became not just dangerous but sinful. To challenge authority was to challenge the universe itself. Over time, this fear rewired morality. Good was not what reduced suffering. Good was what pleased the gods. Evil was not what harmed others. Evil was what broke rules, and this is the crucial shift. Humans stopped fearing the pain they caused each other. They feared the punishment they would receive from above. Compassion became secondary to obedience, and society accepted this because divine fear felt safer than human chaos. Trusting people is risky. Trusting gods requires nothing but submission. This is why humans feared gods more than they feared each other. Because gods were not competitors, they were controllers, and fear directed upward kept society quiet, orderly, and predictable. But it also taught humans something dangerous, that the greatest threat was not cruelty between people, but disobedience to invisible rules. And once a society believes that, it stops protecting each other. It starts policing itself. Myths silenced questions because questions destabilize order. A question is not innocent. It does not ask only for information. It challenges authority. The moment a human asks why, they imply that things could be otherwise. And that possibility is dangerous to any system built on certainty. Early societies did not fear ignorance, they feared doubt. Ignorance can be guided. Doubt cannot. Myths were created to end inquiry before it began. They did not invite exploration. They delivered conclusions. When a myth answers a question, it does so completely and finally. There is no follow-up. There is no alternative. The story closes the door. When lightning strikes, the myth does not say, investigate. It says accept. When death comes, the myth does not say understand. It says obey. This is how questions were neutralized, not by banning them, but by replacing them with sacred answers. Once an answer is holy, it cannot be challenged. And once it cannot be challenged, thinking stops. Myths train the mind to recognize curiosity as danger. To ask too much was arrogance. To doubt was betrayal. To seek beyond the story was sin. This transformed questioning from a natural human instinct into a moral failure. The smartest humans were no longer the most curious. They were the most obedient. Over time, this reshaped intelligence itself. Wisdom became memory, not discovery. Knowledge became repetition, not insight. The role of the human was not to understand the world, but to stay within its assigned meaning. Myths did not simply explain reality, they froze it. They locked reality into narratives that could be passed down unchanged. This protected continuity but killed evolution because progress requires unanswered questions, and unanswered questions require tolerance for uncertainty. Myths removed uncertainty because uncertainty empowers individuals. A person who lives with uncertainty must think for themselves. But a person who lives with myth borrows certainty from tradition. This makes them easier to guide, easier to predict, and easier to control. Silencing questions also protected hierarchy. If questions were allowed, roles could be challenged. Why this ruler? Why this law? Why this suffering? Myths preempted these questions by framing hierarchy as destiny. When order is sacred, rebellion becomes blasphemy. And so the most powerful feature of myth was not its story, but its finality. It ended conversations. It replaced dialogue with doctrine. It taught humans that safety lies in answers, not in inquiry. And this is why myths endured. They did what force could not. They convinced people that silence was wisdom. And once a society believes that, it no longer needs chains. The questions disappear on their own. Worlds built on fear are not accidents. They are designs. When early human societies formed, the greatest threat to survival was not nature alone, but instability. Uncontrolled behavior, conflict, revenge, and constant questioning could fracture a group faster than famine or storms. So fear became a tool. Not raw fear of the unknown, but directed fear. Myths were the mechanism that shaped it. Their hidden mission was never to eliminate fear, but to domesticate it, to take something wild and turn it into structure. Fear without direction creates panic. Fear with direction creates order. Myths provided that direction. They taught people what to fear, when to fear, and most importantly, who to fear. Fear was lifted away from immediate human relationships and aimed upward toward gods, spirits, and cosmic judgment. This transformed society. You no longer feared your neighbor. You feared disobedience. You feared stepping outside invisible boundaries. Myths created worlds where danger was no longer random. It was conditional. If you obey, you are safe. If you question, you are punished. This conditional safety is powerful. It trains behavior without constant force. People begin to regulate themselves. Every action becomes a calculation. Not is this right or wrong, but will this anger the gods? In such worlds, fear becomes invisible architecture. It shapes cities, rituals, morality, and identity without ever being seen. The gods do not need to appear often. Their presence is felt in hesitation, in guilt, in silence. This is the genius of mythic control. It embeds authority into imagination. A wall built of stone can be climbed. A wall built of belief cannot. These fear-based worlds also redefine good and evil. Good is not compassion. Evil is not cruelty. Good is obedience. Evil is deviation. This shift allows immense suffering to be justified. If pain exists, it is deserved. If injustice occurs, it is ordained. The system is never wrong. The individual is. This protects the structure at all costs, because structures built on fear value survival over humanity. They endure, but they do not grow. They repeat, but they do not evolve. Myths ensured this repetition by sanctifying the past. What was done before must be done again. Tradition becomes sacred, change becomes threat, and anyone who introduces new questions becomes dangerous. Not because they are violent, but because they loosen fear's grip. These worlds feel safe from the inside. They offer certainty, they offer belonging, they offer meaning, but they extract a price. The price is freedom, independent thought, personal responsibility, true moral choice. In a fear-built world, you are never truly choosing, you are complying, and compliance feels like peace until it is examined. This is why myths lasted so long. They did not rule through terror alone. They ruled through comforted fear. They told humans, you are small, the world is dangerous, and we will protect you as long as you stay in line. And many accepted, because living without fear requires courage. And courage has never been the foundation of stable empires. Fear has. Legends did not save humans, they aligned them. If salvation had been the goal, legends would have encouraged divergence, adaptation, and choice. But legends did the opposite. They pulled individuals into the same narrative, distributed the same fears, offered the same answers, and demanded the same behavior. Because salvation is individual, but alignment is collective. Early societies did not collapse because they lacked strength. They collapsed because they lacked uniformity. When everyone thinks differently, acts differently, and doubts differently, cohesion breaks. Legends emerged to solve this problem. They told people they shared the same origin, the same destiny, and the same obligations. This unity was presented as protection, but in reality, it erased difference. Anyone who stepped outside the story became a threat. The questioner was arrogant, the dissenter was cursed, the nonconformist was dangerous. So people learned to police themselves. They stayed in line, not because they understood, but because deviation carried risk. Salvation requires change. Change requires uncertainty. Legends feared uncertainty. They sanctified repetition. What was done before had to be done again. Tradition became sacred. Stagnation became virtue. Legends spoke softly but enforced harshly. They never said everyone must be the same. They said everyone must believe. And once belief was uniform, behavior followed. Individuality dissolved into order. The crowd replaced the person, and crowds are not saved, they are managed. Legends reduced humans into roles, functions, positions in a larger structure. Safety was offered in exchange for selfhood. This trade felt reasonable in a hostile world. Belonging is comforting. Freedom is isolating. Legends promised togetherness but demanded silence. They told humans, you are not alone, as long as you are not different. This mechanism never disappeared. Only the language changed. Even now, shared stories are valued more than uncomfortable questions. Conformity is rewarded while deviation is punished. Because alignment sustains systems. Legends did not lift humanity forward. They held it still. They created long lines of obedient people who survived, but did not evolve. Those who moved history were always the ones who stepped out of line. Legends did not save humans, they aligned them. If salvation had been the goal, legends would have encouraged divergence, adaptation, and choice. But legends did the opposite. They pulled individuals into the same narrative, distributed the same fears, offered the same answers, and demanded the same behavior. Because salvation is individual, but alignment is collective. Early societies did not collapse because they lacked strength. They collapsed because they lacked uniformity. When everyone thinks differently, acts differently, and doubts differently, cohesion breaks. Legends emerged to solve this problem. They told people they shared the same origin, the same destiny, and the same obligations. This unity was presented as protection, but in reality, it erased difference. Anyone who stepped outside the story became a threat. The questioner was arrogant, the dissenter was cursed, the nonconformist was dangerous. So people learned to police themselves. They stayed in line, not because they understood, but because deviation carried risk. Salvation requires change. Change requires uncertainty. Legends feared uncertainty. They sanctified repetition. What was done before had to be done again. Tradition became sacred. Stagnation became virtue. Legends spoke softly but enforced harshly. They never said everyone must be the same. They said everyone must believe. And once belief was uniform, behavior followed. Individuality dissolved into order. The crowd replaced the person, and crowds are not saved, they are managed. Legends reduced humans into roles, functions, positions in a larger structure. Safety was offered in exchange for selfhood. This trade felt reasonable in a hostile world. Belonging is comforting. Freedom is isolating. Legends promised togetherness but demanded silence. They told humans, you are not alone, as long as you are not different. This mechanism never disappeared. Only the language changed. Even now, shared stories are valued more than uncomfortable questions. Conformity is rewarded while deviation is punished. because alignment sustains systems. Legends did not lift humanity forward. They held it still. They created long lines of obedient people who survived, but did not evolve. Those who moved history were always the ones who stepped out of line. If myths had never existed, power would not have disappeared. It would have become visible. Myths did not create authority, they disguised it. Without myths, humans would still organize, lead, command, and obey. But authority would need to justify itself openly rather than hiding behind the divine. Myths allowed power to appear natural, inevitable, and unquestionable. They turned rulers into extensions of cosmic order. Without myths, leadership would be exposed as human choice rather than sacred destiny. This would make authority fragile because fragile authority must explain itself. In a world without myths, fear would not vanish, but it would lack direction. People would fear hunger, violence, and uncertainty, but not invisible judgment. Power would have to rely on persuasion, negotiation, and force instead of belief. Such power is unstable because it can be resisted directly. Myths removed this resistance by relocating authority above society rather than within it. If myths did not exist, rule would shift constantly. Stronger leaders would rise and fall faster. Social contracts would be renegotiated more often. Hierarchy would be temporary rather than eternal. Myths freeze hierarchy. They transform temporary advantage into permanent right. They turn success into destiny. Without myths, there would be no sacred kings, no chosen peoples, no divine laws. There would be agreements, not commandments, obligations, not sins. This would increase conflict, but also accountability. When power is human, it can be blamed. When power is divine, it cannot. This is why myths were essential to early rule. They protected rulers from responsibility. If a law failed, it was the will of the gods. If suffering occurred, it was fate. Without myths, humans would have to look at each other and say, "We chose this," and that admission is heavy. It demands moral courage. Myths spared societies from that burden. They placed authority beyond reach. And so the answer is uncomfortable. If myths did not exist, humans would rule. And humans ruling humans is dangerous because it reveals cruelty, ambition, and error. But it also allows change. Mythic power endures longer, but human power can be challenged. This is why myths were preferred. They did not eliminate rulers, they made them untouchable. And in doing so, they traded freedom for stability. The world did not ask who would rule without myths. It asked whether it could survive without unquestionable rulers, and it chose myths. Divine wrath was never designed to comfort. It was designed to condition. In myths, the anger of gods is not an emotional reaction. It is a mechanism, a system of pressure meant to shape behavior. When ancient stories end in punishment, they are not warning about morality. They are demonstrating consequences. Fear works best when it feels inevitable, and divine punishment was made to feel unavoidable. Myths rarely show gods rescuing humans from suffering. They show gods responding to disobedience. Floods, plagues, exile, death. These were not random, they were instructional. The message was simple and repeated across cultures. Step out of line and the universe will respond. This is why mythic stories almost always escalate toward punishment. Not resolution, not understanding, but correction. Comfort would invite reflection. Reflection invites questioning. Questioning weakens control. Punishment ends the thought immediately. It teaches without dialogue. You do not ask why the god is angry. You ask how to avoid anger next time. This transforms belief into behavior. The gods do not need to be kind. They need to be consistent. Consistency creates predictability. Predictability creates obedience. Divine wrath also removed human responsibility. If a disaster occurred, it was not because of poor decisions. It was because the gods were displeased. This shifted accountability upward and made systems immune to criticism. suffering became justified. Injustice became sacred. Humans stopped asking who caused harm. They asked which rule was broken. This is why myths frame gods as volatile, watchful, and easily angered. Not because humans believed the universe was cruel, but because fear needed to be immediate and personal. A distant God cannot control, a forgiving God cannot intimidate, but an unpredictable God keeps everyone alert. This constant tension trained societies to self-police. People did not behave ethically, they behaved carefully. They avoided curiosity, they avoided deviation, they avoided change. Because change invites attention, and attention invites wrath. Mythic punishment was not about justice, it was about deterrence. One punishment shown clearly in a story can regulate thousands of lives silently. This is why myths rarely end in mercy. Mercy teaches nuance. Nuance creates ambiguity. Ambiguity weakens rules, certainty strengthens them, and punishment feels certain. It draws clear lines. You are either obedient or cursed. The world becomes simple but not humane. In this way, divine anger was the most efficient tool myths ever created. It did not need constant reinforcement. It lived in memory, in ritual, in fear passed from generation to generation. And so myths ended with punishment, not because humans were evil, but because control demands consequences. Not comfort, not explanation, not freedom. Divine wrath was never meant to save humanity. It was meant to shape it. Myths gave humans hope, but never freedom. Hope is easy to offer. Freedom is expensive. In the earliest societies, people lived surrounded by uncertainty. Death arrived without warning. Nature obeyed no logic. The future could not be planned. In this environment, hope was a psychological necessity, and myths supplied it. They promised that suffering had meaning, that pain was not random, that death was not the end. This hope calmed the mind. It made existence bearable, but it came with a condition. Hope was only granted to those who accepted the story. Freedom to question, to doubt, to choose independently was never part of the offer. Myths did not say, "You can become anything." They said, "You have a place, you have a role, you have a destiny." And destiny is the opposite of freedom. Hope in myth is passive. It teaches waiting, not acting, enduring, not changing, trusting, not deciding. If you suffer now, you will be rewarded later. If you obey now, justice will come eventually. This delayed promise kept people compliant. A free person demands change in the present. A hopeful person accepts delay. Myths mastered this delay. They pushed fulfillment into the afterlife, the next cycle, the will of the gods. By doing so, they removed urgency. If everything is already decided by higher powers, then human choice becomes secondary. You do not shape the world, you endure it. Hope also softened fear. Fear without hope leads to rebellion. Fear with hope leads to patience. This balance was crucial. Myths did not eliminate fear. They wrapped it in meaning. You were still small, still powerless, but now you were told it mattered. This emotional reward replaced autonomy. People felt seen without being heard, comforted without being empowered. Myths offered answers that closed paths. They explained suffering instead of asking how to end it. They justified hierarchy instead of challenging it. They promised salvation without transformation. This is why myths survived. They did not threaten systems, they stabilized them. Hope kept people alive. Freedom would have changed everything. A free human experiments, a hopeful human waits, and waiting is predictable. Over time, hope became a substitute for agency. People learned to endure injustice because it was meaningful, to accept limits because they were sacred, to surrender choice because it was comforting. This is the quiet cost of mythic hope. It soothes, but it restrains. It consoles, but it confines. It gives the feeling of purpose without the risk of freedom. Myths did not lie when they offered hope. They simply redirected it away from the present and away from human hands. They taught people to look upward and forward, never inward and now. And as long as hope was enough, freedom was never demanded. This is why myths could offer hope endlessly, but never freedom, because hope keeps the system alive. Freedom would have questioned why the system existed at all. Prometheus was not dangerous because he was powerful. He was dangerous because he understood. The ancient world did not belong to humans. It belonged to gods. Humans were meant to survive, not to advance. They were cold, fragile, and dependent dependence was the foundation of divine order. Fire was more than warmth. Fire was technology. Fire was memory, craft, progress, and independence. To give fire to humans was not an act of kindness. It was an act of rebellion. Prometheus did not steal fire by accident. He stole it with intention. He crossed a boundary that was never meant to be crossed. Zeus did not punish Prometheus because something was taken. He punished him because something was shared. Knowledge in myth is never neutral. It is either controlled or forbidden, and Prometheus broke control. The punishment reveals the true message of the myth. Zeus does not kill Prometheus because death would end the lesson. Instead, he chains him to a rock at the edge of the world. An eagle eats his liver every day, and every night it grows back again. Eternal suffering, eternal reminder. This punishment is symbolic. It tells humanity that giving knowledge carries pain, that helping others rise will cost you, that challenging divine hierarchy will never go unanswered. Prometheus becomes a warning carved into myth. Do not reach too high. Do not teach too much. Do not equalize what must remain unequal. Notice what Prometheus did not do. He did not start a war. He did not destroy Olympus. He did not harm humans. He gave them fire, and that alone was unforgivable. This reveals the core logic of myth. Humans may live, but they must not rival. Humans may worship, but they must not understand. To create is to threaten. To question is to trespass. Prometheus is often called a hero, but myth does not reward him. His suffering is eternal because the fear must be eternal. If Prometheus were freed, the story would collapse. If knowledge could be shared without consequence, the system would lose its grip. So the myth freezes him in pain forever. Prometheus represents the moment when myth draws a line between survival and freedom. You may exist, you may obey, but you may not rise without punishment. This is why Prometheus matters. He exposes the hidden rule beneath mythology. That knowledge is not sacred because it is good. It is dangerous because it is liberating, and liberation has always been the greatest threat to gods. The Epic of Gilgamesh is not just the oldest surviving story in human history. It is the first moment humanity looked directly at its own limits and did not like what it saw. This epic was born in a world where gods ruled absolutely and humans existed beneath them, not as equals, not as partners, but as beings allowed to live only within strict boundaries. Gilgamesh begins as a king who has everything except restraint. He is powerful, strong, partly divine, and feared by his people. 2/3 God, 1/3 human. Yet his divinity does not make him wise. It makes him dangerous. He abuses power, ignores limits, and treats people as tools. From the very beginning, the epic makes something clear. Being closer to the gods does not mean being better. It means being less human. To control Gilgamesh, the gods do not destroy him. They create Enkidu. Enkidu is wild, free, and untouched by civilization. He lives with animals and knows nothing of hierarchy, law, or shame. When Enkidu is brought into human society, he loses freedom but gains awareness. This transformation mirrors humanity itself. To become human is to lose innocence. Gilgamesh and Enkidu fight, but instead of killing each other, they recognize themselves in one another. This bond is not friendship in a simple sense. It is existential. Enkidu becomes the mirror that forces Gilgamesh to see himself. Together they seek glory. They kill Humbaba, They defy divine warnings. They cross boundaries. And here the epic draws a sharp line. Defiance may be thrilling, but it will never be forgiven. The gods respond not by killing Gilgamesh, but by killing Enkidu. This choice is deliberate. Enkidu's death is not about justice. It is about instruction. Gilgamesh must learn loss. Enkidu dies slowly, helplessly, and bitterly cursing civilization itself. His death introduces something more terrifying than fear, the awareness of mortality. For the first time, Gilgamesh understands that strength cannot protect him. He cannot fight death. He cannot command it. He cannot escape it. And this realization shatters him. The epic now shifts. Gilgamesh no longer seeks glory. He seeks survival. He seeks immortality. He asks the most dangerous human question: must I die too? His journey to Utnapishtim is not heroic. It is desperate. He crosses deserts, darkness, and oceans, leaving society behind. This journey symbolizes the price of chasing immortality. You must abandon humanity to seek it, but the epic offers no reward. Utnapishtim tells the story of the Great Flood, revealing something deeply unsettling. The gods once tried to destroy humanity, not because humans were evil, but because they were noisy and inconvenient. Humans are not sacred, they are tolerated. Utnapishtim survives not because he deserves it, but because he is chosen. And here the final rule is revealed. Immortality is not earned, it is granted, and it will never be granted again. Gilgamesh is tested, he fails. He is offered a plant of renewal and loses it to a snake. The snake sheds its skin and renews itself. Humans do not. This is no accident. It is the epic's final lesson. Nature renews, humans decay. Gilgamesh returns home empty-handed but changed. He has not escaped death, he has accepted it. He looks at the walls of his city and understands the compromise mythology offers. Your body will die, but your works may last. This is not freedom from death. It is distraction from it. The Epic of Gilgamesh does not comfort humanity. It disciplines it. It teaches humans where the line is and makes clear that the line is death. You may search. You may question, but the answer will not change. You will not escape. This is why the Epic survived for thousands of years. It answered the most dangerous human desire not with hope, but with closure. It did not free humanity from fear. It taught humanity how to live inside it. And in doing so, it became the first great myth not of gods, but of limits. Adam and Eve, the myth where knowledge becomes disobedience. The story of Adam and Eve is not about temptation. It is about control. From the very beginning, humans are placed into a perfect environment, not because they earned it, but because they are contained. The Garden of Eden is not freedom. It is supervision. Everything is provided. There is no hunger, no struggle, no uncertainty. But there is also no choice. There is one rule, and that rule defines the entire system. Do not eat from the tree of knowledge. This command is not about nutrition. It is about limits. Knowledge is the boundary. The moment humans understand good and evil, they stop being manageable. They stop being innocent. And innocence is essential to obedience. The serpent does not offer pleasure. It offers awareness. You will know. The punishment that follows proves the real crime. Adam and Eve are not expelled for disobedience alone. They are expelled because they change. They see, they question, they become self-aware. God does not argue with them. He does not explain. He removes them. This is important because myths that aim to control do not persuade. They enforce. The expulsion is not simply a consequence. It is a warning. Once you know, you cannot stay. Once you understand, you no longer belong. Eden represents a system where humans are safe but powerless. Outside Eden, humans suffer but choose. This is the trade. The myth frames knowledge as the source of pain. Work, pregnancy, death, and struggle all begin with awareness. The message is clear. Suffering is the price of thinking. This shifts responsibility away from authority. If life is hard, it is not because of how the world is built. It is because humans wanted to know too much. The myth discourages curiosity by associating it with loss. It teaches that obedience keeps you protected, but questioning casts you out. God is not portrayed as a guide, but as a boundary. He does not teach Adam and Eve how to use knowledge. He forbids it entirely. This reveals the core logic of the story. Humans are not meant to understand morality, they are meant to follow it. Good and evil are not concepts to explore, they are rules to accept. Once humans gain moral awareness, they also gain responsibility, and responsibility threatens divine order, because responsible humans can judge, they can compare, they can question commands. This is why the serpent is framed as evil. Not because it lies, but because it encourages autonomy. And autonomy is dangerous to systems built on obedience. Adam and Eve do not gain power. They gain exile, they gain labor, they gain mortality. The myth does not deny the value of knowledge. It punishes it. This punishment teaches generations that safety lies in ignorance and freedom lies in pain. The story does not end with redemption. It ends with closure. The gates of Eden are closed. The path back is blocked. This final image matters. There is no return to innocence once awareness begins. The myth permanently separates humans from divine protection the moment they become conscious. And this is the real function of the story. It does not explain why humans suffer. It explains why they must accept suffering. It tells them that the world is not unfair. The choice was made long ago, and questioning it again will only repeat the fall. Adam and Eve is not a story about the first sin. It is a story about the first boundary. It draws the line between obedience and freedom and makes clear which one is safer. And like all powerful myths, it does not ask you to agree. It asks you to remember what happens if you do not. Noah, the myth, where obedience survives and humanity is erased. The story of Noah's flood is not about salvation. It is about reset. It presents a world that has failed, not because it was weak, but because it was disobedient. Humans are described as corrupt, violent, and morally broken. But the story never asks why society became this way. It simply declares judgment. The solution is not reform, not learning, not change. The solution is removal. The flood is not correction. It is erasure. God does not guide humanity back. He wipes it out almost entirely. This matters because it reveals the logic of the myth. When a system fails, the system is not questioned. The people are. Noah is not chosen because he is innovative or wise. He is chosen because he is obedient. He follows instructions without debate. He does not argue. He does not ask why everyone must die. He builds. The ark is not a symbol of hope. It is a filter. Those who obey survive. Those who do not are removed. This is the core message. Obedience is life. Disobedience is death. The flood does not discriminate between guilty and innocent. Children, animals, civilizations are all destroyed. The myth is not concerned with justice. It is concerned with purity. A clean world is preferred over a humane one. The flood also redefines fear. Before the flood, humans fear each other. After the flood, they fear God. Nature itself becomes a weapon of authority. Water is no longer neutral. It is judgment. The rainbow that follows is often described as a promise, but it is also a reminder. The power to destroy remains. The threat is simply suspended. This creates a psychological contract. You may live, but only under conditions. The most important detail is what survives. The ark does not preserve culture. Knowledge, art, it preserves structure, hierarchy, authority, one man, one family, one command. This is not humanity saved. It is humanity reduced. The myth teaches that the future belongs not to the many, but to the compliant. It reframes mass death as necessity and survival as virtue. Like other flood myths across cultures, this story warns against excess and disorder. But more importantly, it teaches submission. When destruction comes, it is not to be resisted. It is to be endured by those who listened. The flood answers a dangerous question. What happens if humans go too far? The answer is not debate. It is annihilation. This is why the flood is such a powerful myth. It does not argue morality. It demonstrates power. It says the world can be ended and restarted at will, and the only defense is obedience. Noah does not save humanity. He replaces it. The flood cleans the slate so the same structure can be written again. This is not a story of mercy. It is a story of control through absolute consequence. It teaches that survival is not about being good. It is about being chosen, and being chosen requires silence, faith, and submission. The myth does not end fear. It perfects it. After the flood, humanity knows something it did not before, that everything can be taken away, and that knowledge is enough to keep order for generations. Osiris, Isis, Horus, the myth where order is preserved through death and succession. The myth of Osiris, Isis, and Horus is not a love story and not a family tragedy. It is a political blueprint disguised as divine drama. At its core, this myth explains why power must never truly disappear, only transfer. Osiris is the ideal ruler, peaceful, law-giving, associated with agriculture, order, and stability. He represents a world where chaos is restrained, but such a world is fragile because stability invites challenge. Set does not kill Osiris out of madness. He kills him out of rivalry. This is important. The threat does not come from evil outsiders. It comes from within power itself. Set dismembers Osiris and scatters his body across Egypt. This act symbolizes fragmentation. When central authority is destroyed, society breaks into pieces. The response to this chaos is not revolution, it is restoration, and that restoration comes through Isis. Isis does not overthrow the system. She repairs it. She gathers the body parts. She resurrects Osiris just enough to conceive Horus. Osiris does not return to rule the living. He becomes Lord of the underworld. This move is crucial. Power is not removed. It is relocated. Death itself becomes structured. Osiris rules the dead, with judgment weighing hearts against truth. This ensures control does not end at life. It extends beyond it. The living obey not only to survive, but to secure their afterlife. Horus is the final piece. He is not born to question the system. He is born to restore it. His entire purpose is revenge and succession. The war between Horus and Set is not about justice. It is about legitimacy. When Horus wins, order is reestablished, not because it evolved, but because it returned. The rightful heir sits on the throne. The cycle is complete. What this myth teaches is clear. Power may be disrupted, but never dismantled. Chaos may erupt, but it must be defeated, not understood. Isis is praised not for changing the structure, but for preserving it. She uses intelligence and devotion to keep the lineage intact. Horus is praised not for wisdom, but for obedience to destiny. Osiris is praised not for living, but for ruling eternally in death. This myth solves a dangerous problem. What happens when a ruler dies? The answer is not uncertainty. The answer is continuity. The dead rule the dead. The living rule the living. And both worlds are connected by judgment and inheritance. This removes the fear of change. If kings die, the system survives. If injustice exists, it will be corrected in the afterlife. If suffering occurs, it fits into cosmic order. The myth transforms political stability into divine necessity. It tells people that hierarchy is not human invention. It is cosmic law, and rebellion is not social crime. It is imbalance against the universe. This is why the Osiris-Isis-Horus myth was so powerful. It did not promise freedom, it promised permanence. It told humans that even death does not break authority. It only changes its location. And once authority controls both life and afterlife, there is nowhere left to escape it. The myth does not ask humans to imagine a better world. It asks them to accept this one as eternal, and that acceptance is the real victory of the gods. Judgment Day is not about the end of the world. It is about the perfection of control. The idea of a final judgment was never meant to explain the future. It was meant to regulate the present. Qiyamah, the Last Judgment, appears in myth as the ultimate accounting moment where nothing escapes notice. No action, no thought, no intention is forgotten. This is not comfort. This is pressure. The message is simple. You may escape human courts. You may hide from society, but you will never escape judgment. The delay is the strategy, because postponed punishment is more effective than immediate violence. It follows you everywhere. Heaven and hell complete this system. They transform behavior into eternity. Heaven is not a reward for curiosity or courage. It is a reward for obedience. Hell is not a consequence of cruelty alone. It is the result of deviation. These realms do not teach ethics. They enforce conformity. Good is defined not by reducing suffering, but by following rules. Evil is not what harms others, but what breaks command. This shift is crucial. It moves morality away from human responsibility and places it into cosmic administration. Once morality is externalized, humans stop asking what is right. They ask what is allowed. Heaven and hell remove ambiguity. There is no discussion, no context, no negotiation. Your life becomes a test, and the result is permanent. This permanence is the core of the mechanism. Temporary punishment can be endured. Eternal punishment reshapes identity. People begin to live as defendants rather than agents. Every choice is filtered through fear of infinite consequence. This creates self-policing societies where control is internalized. No guards are needed, no constant force. The mind becomes the courtroom. The conscience becomes the executioner. Judgment Day also protects authority in the present. If injustice exists now, it will be fixed later. If suffering occurs now, it has meaning later. This postponement neutralizes rebellion. Why resist today if justice is guaranteed tomorrow? Why challenge power if the universe itself will judge it? In this way, heaven and hell stabilize systems by absorbing anger and redirecting it into patience. They promise balance without requiring change. They offer hope without action, and that hope is powerful because it never arrives. The final judgment is always coming, never here. This allows any present order to survive indefinitely, no matter how cruel, no matter how unequal, no matter how broken. Heaven and hell do not free humans from fear. They refine it. They make it endless. They turn behavior into destiny and destiny into silence. You do not act because you choose. You act because you are being watched, not by people, but by eternity. This is why Judgment Day is the most effective mythic invention. It does not need repetition. It lives forever. And as long as eternity is at stake, freedom becomes too expensive to consider. The system does not ask you to understand. It asks you to behave. Because in a world where actions echo forever, even the smallest disobedience feels unbearable. And that unbearable weight keeps order long after God stops speaking. Odin, Thor, Loki, Ragnarok together form one of the clearest mythological systems ever created to explain power, order, and inevitability. Odin is not a god of comfort, he is a god of cost. In Norse mythology, knowledge is never free. Odin does not learn by prayer or inheritance. He sacrifices. He gives up his eye. He hangs himself on the world tree pierced by his own spear. This is not martyrdom, it is transaction. Wisdom is portrayed as something that demands pain, suffering, and loss. This sends a precise message. Being wise is dangerous. Knowledge isolates. The ruler who knows more must suffer more. Odin does not seek wisdom to free others. He seeks it to rule more effectively. He wants to see fate clearly, not to change it, but to prepare for it. This is crucial. Even the highest god cannot escape destiny. He can only understand it, and that understanding brings despair, not freedom. Thor exists as the opposite force. Where Odin is doubt and calculation, Thor is simplicity and enforcement. Thor does not question. He protects. He maintains borders. He kills giants not because they are evil, but because they threaten order. His hammer Mjolnir is not a symbol of justice. It is a tool of maintenance. Thor represents the idea that stability requires violence repeated endlessly. He is loved because he is predictable. He does not think. He reacts. This makes him the perfect guardian of a rigid world. While Odin suffers for knowledge and Thor enforces order, Loki exposes the cracks. Loki is not pure chaos. He is disruption. He questions norms, bends rules, changes shape, and mocks authority. But the myth is careful. Loki is allowed only as long as his chaos is useful. Once chaos stops serving the system, it becomes unacceptable. Loki's punishment is extreme. He is bound, tortured, and isolated. This shows the limit of deviation. You may challenge, you may disrupt, but only until the structure feels threatened. Chaos is tolerated only when it can be controlled, and when it cannot, it is destroyed. This prepares the ground for Ragnarok. Ragnarok is not just an apocalypse, it is resignation. The gods know it is coming. They know who will die. They know the world will burn, and yet nothing is done to stop it. This is the most brutal lesson in Norse mythology. Fate cannot be changed, not by wisdom, not by strength, not by rebellion. Odin gathers knowledge but still dies. Thor kills the serpent but still falls. Loki breaks free but is destroyed. Every role is fulfilled. Every outcome is fixed. Ragnarok teaches humans something deeply restrictive. Struggle does not change destiny, it only fulfills it. Courage is admired, but it is meaningless in the face of fate. This worldview creates a culture where heroism exists without hope. Fight because it is your role, not because you will win. This is powerful ideological conditioning. It removes expectation of change. If even gods cannot escape destiny, humans should not try to rewrite their place. The Norse system is not optimistic. It is disciplined. It trains people to accept hardship, violence, and loss as natural and unavoidable. Odin sacrifices but gains no salvation. Thor protects but cannot preserve. Loki resists but is crushed. Ragnarok ends everything and restarts nothing better. The cycle continues. This mythology does not promise progress. It promises endurance, and endurance is the ideal trait of a society built on harsh environments and rigid hierarchies. The gods do not offer freedom. They offer example. Suffer like Odin, obey like Thor, do not become Loki, and accept Ragnarok. This is not mythology meant to inspire change. It is mythology meant to prepare minds for a world where struggle is constant, authority is unquestionable, and fate is final. And that is why Norse myths feel so honest and so unforgiving. They do not lie. They simply tell you where you stand, and that standing place never moves. Ra, the divine cycle of the sun and the illusion of stability. Ra is not a god of miracles. He is a god of repetition. In ancient Egyptian mythology, Ra does not save the world by changing it. He preserves it by doing the same thing endlessly. Every day he is born with the sunrise. Every night he dies with the sunset. And every night he must fight his way through darkness to be born again. This cycle is not poetic, it is ideological. Ra represents the belief that stability does not come from progress, but from continuity. The sun must rise, the order must remain, the pattern must not break. In a world where the Nile floods, deserts expand, and death is everywhere, this promise of repetition is powerful. It tells humans that despite chaos, nothing truly changes. Ra's daily journey across the sky is not effortless. At night, he travels through the underworld, battling the serpent Apophis, the embodiment of chaos. This battle happens every night and is never final. Apophis is never destroyed. This detail matters. Chaos is not eliminated, it is contained. This mirrors how power works in myth. Ra does not create a better world. He prevents collapse. Stability is not growth, it is survival through maintenance. The message is subtle but firm. Do not expect transformation, expect endurance. Ra also sits at the center of cosmic hierarchy. Pharaohs rule because they are linked to him. They are sons of Ra, extensions of the sun's authority. This makes political power natural and unquestionable. If the sun rules the sky, so must the king rule the land. Disobedience is not just rebellion, it is disruption of cosmic order. Ma'at, truth and balance, is upheld by repetition, ritual, and obedience, not by innovation, not by questioning. To change the order is to threaten the sunrise itself. Ra grows old, he weakens, he is poisoned at one point and needs help. Yet even then the cycle continues. This teaches another lesson. Individual rulers may decay, but the system survives. Ra's vulnerability does not weaken authority. It humanizes it just enough to make it relatable without making it replaceable. The sun god ages, but the sun still rises. This separates person from structure. Power is eternal. Even gods are temporary carriers of it. Ra does not offer moral guidance in the way later religions do. He offers predictability. There is no final judgment, no apocalypse, no redemption. There is only continuation. This makes his myth especially effective as a stabilizing force. It removes urgency. If tomorrow will be like today, there is no need to rebel. If the sun will rise regardless, there is no need to change the system. The future is already decided by repetition. In this way, a Ra represents one of the most sophisticated mythic controls ever created. Not fear of punishment, not promise of heaven, but reassurance that nothing will break. As long as rituals are performed, as long as roles are obeyed, as long as order is respected, the sun will rise, the Nile will flood, the world will continue. Ra does not demand love, he demands alignment. Live in rhythm, work in cycles, accept hierarchy, accept return, accept that life is not a journey forward but a circle you walk until you die. This worldview produces obedience without terror and stability without hope, and that is its strength. Ra teaches humanity not how to escape suffering, but how to endure it by believing that tomorrow will look exactly like today. And for societies built on survival rather than freedom, this belief was not just comforting, it was essential. The idea of the world being destroyed again and again is not a coincidence in mythology. It is one of the most effective tools ever created to discipline human expectation. These myths do not exist to explain catastrophe. They exist to normalize it. When destruction happens once, it can provoke resistance. When it happens repeatedly, it produces resignation. Stories of repeated world endings appear across civilizations because they teach the same lesson. This world is not permanent. Your suffering is not unique. Your rebellion is not new, and change is not rewarded. In Aztec mythology, the universe is created and destroyed multiple times through the cycle of the 5 suns. Each world ends because humans fail to satisfy divine expectations. They are too weak, too disobedient, or too flawed. The message is consistent. The system is never wrong. Humans are. In Hindu cosmology, the universe endlessly cycles through creation, preservation, and destruction. Kalpas rise and collapse over immense spans of time, governed by gods who do not intervene to save individuals. Destruction is not tragedy, it is routine. Progress does not exist. Only repetition. Mayan myths follow the same pattern. Humans are created, tested, found insufficient, and erased. This repetition strips catastrophe of meaning. If the world has ended before and will end again, then nothing that happens now is final. This removes urgency. It removes responsibility. It removes hope for transformation. These myths shift blame away from structure and onto existence itself. If everything ends eventually, then injustice is natural. If suffering repeats, then resistance is pointless. The destruction of the world becomes a tool of control, not because it terrifies, but because it exhausts. The human mind adapts to loss when it is framed as inevitable. Rebellion requires belief in a future worth changing. These myths erase that future. They say it already happened and it already failed. This teaches humans to cling to the present order, no matter how cruel, because at least it is familiar. The repeated end of the world also cheapens life. Mass death is reframed as cosmic maintenance. Not murder, not failure, but reset. When millions die, it is not a crime, it is balance. This thinking prepares societies to accept sacrifice, obedience, and erasure in the name of stability. It tells people, do not try to fix the world. You are not here to save it, you are here to endure it. And endurance becomes virtue while imagination becomes danger. The most disturbing aspect of these myths is that destruction is never final. It is only a pause. After the world ends, it is rebuilt with the same rules, the same hierarchies, the same logic. This sanctifies stagnation. Change is not evolution, it is deviation, and deviation leads back to destruction. In this way, myths of repeated world endings do not warn humans. They train them. They teach that no alternative system survives. They teach that every attempt to live differently has already been erased. They teach that obedience is safer than hope. These stories do not calm fear. They deepen it while directing it inward. They whisper that the world will always break and that trying to stop it is arrogance. So the safest choice is to adapt to the cycle, accept the rules, and disappear quietly when the time comes. This is why myths of repeated destruction are so powerful. They do not end the world. They end the idea that the world can ever be changed. Quetzalcoatl is remembered as a gentle creator and a bringer of knowledge, but this image hides the real function of the myth. Quetzalcoatl is dangerous not because he destroys, but because he gives. In Mesoamerican mythology, he creates humanity by descending into the underworld, collecting the bones of previous destroyed worlds and mixing them with his own blood. This detail matters because it places humanity in a conditional position from the start. Humans are not original, they are recycled. They exist only because previous worlds failed. Quetzalcoatl gives people agriculture, crafts, calendar knowledge, and order without constant bloodshed. And this generosity is the problem. A god who reduces sacrifice weakens systems built on fear. Dependence decreases. Obedience becomes less necessary. Quetzalcoatl represents a version of divinity that empowers humans instead of keeping them small. The myth cannot allow this to remain. The solution is removal. Quetzalcoatl is deceived, shamed, or corrupted and forced to leave. He departs across the sea or burns himself and becomes the morning star. He promises to return. This promise is critical. It preserves hope while preventing change. The world that follows his departure returns to sacrifice. The knives return. The sun demands blood. Quetzalcoatl's order survives only as memory, never as reality. This transforms him into a controlled exception. He proves a kinder system was imaginable but not sustainable. Compassion is allowed as myth, not as structure. His absence becomes a political tool. Rulers claim descent or alignment with his future return. People are taught to wait instead of act. Hope replaces rebellion. Endurance replaces reform. Quetzalcoatl does not rule through punishment. He rules through absence. Absence creates longing. Longing creates patience. Patience stabilizes power. People endure suffering not because it is just, but because it is temporary in the story. Quetzalcoatl absorbs the human desire for a humane world and locks it into myth where it cannot threaten reality. He is not the god who frees humanity. He is the god who shows that freedom was possible and then removes it. This makes him one of the most effective mythic figures ever created. Generosity is admired but neutralized. Knowledge is celebrated but withdrawn. The lesson is quiet and brutal. A god who gives too much cannot stay. Systems tolerate kindness only at a distance. As soon as generosity threatens structure, it must disappear or become a promise that never arrives. This is the true role of Quetzalcoatl, not a savior but a safety valve that keeps hope alive while ensuring nothing truly changes. Dragons are not simply monsters in myth. They are symbols of controlled fear and guarded power. Across civilizations, dragons appear wherever authority needs, a face that is overwhelming but distant. They are large, ancient, almost immortal, and usually positioned at the edge of the human world. In European myths, dragons guard treasure, knowledge, or sacred places. This is not accidental. The treasure is never meant to be used. It is meant to be protected from humans. The dragon does not steal wealth, it prevents access. This teaches a clear lesson. Some power exists, but it is not for you. To approach it is to risk death. Knowledge, wealth, and autonomy are framed as dangerous when pursued directly. In Chinese mythology, dragons take a different form. They are not enemies, but embodiments of imperial order, reign, cosmic balance, and authority. Yet even here, the dragon is not accessible. It belongs to the emperor, to heaven, to forces above society. The dragon legitimizes hierarchy. If the emperor rules, it is because he is aligned with the dragon. This turns political power into natural order. Rebellion is no longer resistance against a ruler, it is resistance against the universe itself. In both traditions, dragons mark boundaries. They define where humans must stop. They are the living warning signs of myth. Do not cross, do not take, do not challenge. The dragon's fire, flight, and invulnerability amplify fear beyond human scale. This is important because fear of other humans can be negotiated. Fear of something inhuman cannot. Dragons also connect chaos and order. They are often associated with storms, fire, or floods. Uncontrolled natural forces given shape. This gives authority a powerful excuse. If destruction happens, it is not mismanagement. It is the dragon stirring. If order is restored, it is because the dragon was appeased. The system is never blamed. The myth absorbs responsibility. Dragons are often defeated by heroes, but notice the pattern. The hero does not change the system. He replaces the dragon or takes its role. The treasure is claimed. The crown is won. The hierarchy remains intact. The dragon's death does not free society, it transfers power. This teaches that domination is inevitable. Only the owner changes. In many myths, dragons never truly die. They retreat, hibernate, or return. They are cyclical threats. This reinforces vigilance and obedience. Peace is temporary. Order must be constantly defended. This keeps societies psychologically aligned around protection rather than progress. The dragon also embodies forbidden accumulation, hoarding gold, hoarding wisdom, hoarding power. This reflects how elites are imagined powerful but dangerous. A dragon does not use its hoard, it simply keeps it. This mirrors systems where resources exist but are inaccessible. Dragons make inequality feel natural. If something is unreachable, it must be guarded by something terrifying. This removes the idea that access could ever be fair. In this way, dragons are not enemies of order. They are its guardians. They scare people away from boundaries that must not be crossed. They turn curiosity into danger. They turn ambition into death. They tell humanity that some doors are closed forever and that the reason is not injustice, but nature. Dragons are not chaos. They are disciplined terror. They stand exactly where the system needs them and nowhere else. This is why dragons appear everywhere and disappear nowhere. They are the mythic embodiment of the same message, repeated endlessly. Power exists. Knowledge exists. Freedom may exist. But if you reach for it, you will burn. DU, the Chinese underworld court, is not a place of chaos. It is a place of administration. Unlike hells built on eternal fire and emotion, DU is built on procedure. It functions like a bureaucracy after death, complete with judges, records, clerks, and levels. This design is deliberate. It extends social control beyond life and turns morality into paperwork. In DU, the dead are not simply punished, they are processed. Every action, every intention, every failure is reviewed. There is no escape through ignorance or status. What matters is compliance with order. This is not comfort, it is surveillance perfected. The 10 kings of hell preside over courts, where souls are judged one stage at a time. Punishments are specific, measured, and corrective, rather than symbolic. This sends a clear message. Behavior is not judged by intention alone, but by adherence to rules. DU does not ask why you acted. It asks whether you violated structure. Suffering here is not random. It is deserved, documented, and methodical. This creates a powerful psychological effect. A chaotic hell can be dismissed as fear. DU cannot. It looks familiar. It mirrors earthly administration. Courts, files, delays, appeals. This familiarity teaches that the system never ends. Death does not free you from authority. It upgrades it. In DU, punishment is not always eternal. Many souls are tortured only long enough to be reformed before reincarnation. But this mercy is deceptive because it makes obedience feel rational rather than forced. You are not damned forever. You are corrected until you fit. This frames morality as alignment, not conscience. Good is not compassion. Good is conformity. Evil is not cruelty. Evil is disruption. The bureaucratic nature of DU also protects power on earth. If injustice happens in life, it will be corrected after death. This postponement neutralizes resistance. Why challenge unfairness now if balance will be restored later? Why risk disorder when cosmic administration is already handling it? DU absorbs social anger and redirects it into patience. The system is never wrong. It simply takes time. This is the same logic used by every large authority. The promise of future justice stabilizes present inequality. Another critical feature of DU is record keeping. Ledgers of sins imply total visibility. Nothing is forgotten. This creates self-policing behavior. People act not because they are watched now, but because they will be reviewed later. Even private thoughts matter. This collapses the boundary between inner life and external control. There is no refuge, not even in the mind. DU also removes moral ambiguity. Punishments are categorized, sins are sorted. The world becomes legible but rigid. There is no space for context, no room for exception. This simplifies existence but dehumanizes it. The individual becomes a case, not a person. In this way, DU is one of the most sophisticated mythic control systems ever imagined. It does not rely on terror alone. It relies on order extended infinitely. It teaches that authority is patient, thorough, and unavoidable. You may evade law, you may escape rulers, but you will stand in line eventually. This myth does not shout. It files. DU does not burn rebels immediately. It processes them, and that is far more effective. It tells humans that life is an application and death is the audit. The goal is not freedom but clearance, and clearance is granted only to those who learned to follow rules long before they died. DU, the Chinese underworld court, is not a place of chaos. It is a place of administration. Unlike hells built on eternal fire and emotion, Diyu is built on procedure. It functions like a bureaucracy after death, complete with judges, records, clerks, and levels. This design is deliberate. It extends social control beyond life and turns morality into paperwork. In Diyu, the dead are not simply punished, they are processed. Every action, every intention, every failure is reviewed. There is no escape through ignorance or status. What matters is compliance with order. This is not comfort, it is surveillance perfected. The 10 kings of hell preside over courts, where souls are judged one stage at a time. Punishments are specific, measured, and corrective, rather than symbolic. This sends a clear message. Behavior is not judged by intention alone, but by adherence to rules. Diyu does not ask why you acted. It asks whether you violated structure. Suffering here is not random. It is deserved, documented, and methodical. This creates a powerful psychological effect. A chaotic hell can be dismissed as fear. Diyu cannot. It looks familiar. It mirrors earthly administration. Courts, files, delays, appeals. This familiarity teaches that the system never ends. Death does not free you from authority. It upgrades it. In Diyu, punishment is not always eternal. Many souls are tortured only long enough to be reformed before reincarnation. But this mercy is deceptive because it makes obedience feel rational rather than forced. You are not damned forever. You are corrected until you fit. This frames morality as alignment, not conscience. Good is not compassion. Good is conformity. Evil is not cruelty. Evil is disruption. The bureaucratic nature of Diyu also protects power on earth. If injustice happens in life, it will be corrected after death. This postponement neutralizes resistance. Why challenge unfairness now if balance will be restored later? Why risk disorder when cosmic administration is already handling it? Diyu absorbs social anger and redirects it into patience. The system is never wrong. It simply takes time. This is the same logic used by every large authority. The promise of future justice stabilizes present inequality. Another critical feature of Diyu is record keeping. Ledgers of sins imply total visibility. Nothing is forgotten. This creates self-policing behavior. People act not because they are watched now, but because they will be reviewed later. Even private thoughts matter. This collapses the boundary between inner life and external control. There is no refuge, not even in the mind. Diyu also removes moral ambiguity. Punishments are categorized, sins are sorted. The world becomes legible but rigid. There is no space for context, no room for exception. This simplifies existence but dehumanizes it. The individual becomes a case, not a person. In this way, Diyu is one of the most sophisticated mythic control systems ever imagined. It does not rely on terror alone. It relies on order extended infinitely. It teaches that authority is patient, thorough, and unavoidable. You may evade law, you may escape rulers, but you will stand in line eventually. This myth does not shout. It files. Diyu does not burn rebels immediately. It processes them, and that is far more effective. It tells humans that life is an application and death is the audit. The goal is not freedom but clearance, and clearance is granted only to those who learn to follow rules long before they died. Vishnu and his avatars represent one of the clearest mythological systems of cyclical control ever created. In Hindu mythology, Vishnu does not rule through constant presence. He rules through intervention. When the world drifts too far from order, he descends in a new form. An avatar is not a savior who frees humanity. It is a correction mechanism. Vishnu appears only when balance breaks and disappears once balance is restored. This teaches a precise lesson. The system does not need permanent change. It needs periodic adjustment. The Dashavatara sequence itself is instructive. Vishnu appears as fish, tortoise, boar, man-lion, dwarf, warrior, king, teacher, and finally as Kalki, the destroyer. These forms mirror stages of crisis, not progress. Each avatar solves a specific disruption and then withdraws. No avatar remains to empower humans permanently. Krishna teaches duty, not rebellion. Rama models obedience to cosmic law, even at personal cost. Parashurama eliminates excess power only to reset hierarchy, not dismantle it. Kalki has not yet arrived because total reset is always postponed. This delay is essential. It keeps hope alive while maintaining patience. The Avatar system reframes history as maintenance rather than transformation. Evil is not a flaw of structure, it is imbalance. Good is not liberation, it is restoration. When injustice occurs, it is not for humans to resolve. It will be handled in the next cycle. This postponement neutralizes urgency. Why challenge authority now if Vishnu will intervene later? Why risk disorder when cosmic management already exists? Avatars also limit human agency. They arrive from above, solve the problem, and leave. Humans are never trusted to redesign the world. They are recipients of correction, not authors of change. This creates dependency. Order is preserved not by collective action, but by divine scheduling. Time itself becomes a control tool. Yugas rise and fall. Golden ages decay into dark ages, not because humans failed uniquely, but because decay is built in. Progress is an illusion. Repetition is the truth. The promise of Kalki at the end of the Kali Yuga is the most powerful restraint. It promises final justice without requiring present resistance. Suffer now, endure now. The reset is coming. This makes acceptance virtuous and rebellion premature. Vishnu's avatars do not abolish suffering, they manage it. They keep the world functional, not free. They ensure continuity, not emancipation. This is why the Avatar doctrine is so effective. It absorbs anger, channels hope, and preserves hierarchy across millennia. The world is never meant to be fixed. It is meant to be serviced, and Vishnu is the service protocol. The lesson is quiet but firm. Trust the cycle. Obey your role. Wait your turn. Change will come, but not by your hands. This is not a myth of salvation. It is a myth of regulation. It teaches that stability is achieved not by human courage, but by divine maintenance. And as long as maintenance is promised, freedom can be postponed forever. Ishtar is one of the most revealing figures in ancient mythology because she embodies contradiction as a system rather than a flaw. Ishtar is the goddess of love, sex, war, fertility, and destruction. She gives life and takes it. She inspires desire and unleashes violence. This is not confusion. It is design. Ishtar represents uncontrolled human forces that cannot be eliminated, only managed. In Mesopotamian societies, passion, sexuality, and aggression were seen as dangerous energies. If left unchecked, they could destabilize families, armies, and hierarchies. Ishtar does not remove these forces. She sanctifies them. By turning desire and violence into divine domains, the system gains authority over them. If love is divine, it must follow ritual. If war is divine, it must follow command. Ishtar makes chaos sacred so it can be regulated. One of her most important myths is her descent into the underworld. Ishtar chooses to descend not to save others, but to assert dominance. At each gate, she is stripped of power, clothing, jewelry, and authority. By the time she reaches the underworld, she is naked and helpless. This stripping is symbolic. It shows that no power escapes the system. Even the goddess of life and desire must submit to cosmic order. When Ishtar is trapped, the world above collapses. Fertility stops. Sex ceases. Life withers. This reveals another layer. The system depends on controlled chaos. Too much order kills life. Too much chaos destroys it. Ishtar's return restores balance, but only after negotiation and substitution. Someone else must take her place. This introduces a brutal logic. Survival requires replacement. Suffering is transferable. Life continues because someone else pays. This myth teaches that loss is not eliminated, it is redistributed. Ishtar is also infamous for destroying her lovers. She desires them, uses them, and abandons or kills them. This pattern is not moral teaching, it is warning. Power that desires does not protect. Ishtar's love is not safe, it is consuming. This reframes intimacy as risk and reinforces caution, especially toward forces associated with autonomy and pleasure. In political terms, Ishtar legitimizes conquest. She is worshipped before war. Bloodshed becomes sacred duty, not human ambition. If a city falls, it is not strategy. It is Ishtar's will. This shields rulers from responsibility and frames violence as cosmic necessity. Ishtar's femininity is also weaponized. She is powerful not as a nurturer, but as an irresistible force. This allows patriarchal systems to both fear and control feminine power. She is worshipped yet contained, honored yet punished when she oversteps. The myth never allows Ishtar to rule freely. She is always checked by councils, gates, or consequences. This teaches a precise lesson. Powerful forces may exist, but must never be autonomous. Ishtar also represents desire as instability. Desire moves people, it breaks loyalty, it challenges order. By making desire divine, the system does not eliminate it. It redirects it into ritual, marriage, temples, and sanctioned war. The individual does not choose desire. The goddess does. This removes agency while preserving impulse. In the end, Ishtar is not a symbol of freedom. She is a symbol of managed excess. She shows that systems do not destroy dangerous energies. They mythologize them, personify them, and trap them inside stories where their behavior becomes predictable. Ishtar allows humans to feel passion, violence, and ambition without questioning why these forces exist or who benefits from them. She makes intensity feel natural and inevitable rather than political. This is her true function, not to liberate emotion, but to contain it within divine narrative. Ishtar does not break the system. She proves that even chaos can be disciplined if it is given a name, a temple, and a story. And once chaos is worshipped, it no longer needs to be feared. It only needs to be obeyed. Zeus and the Olympian gods represent one of the clearest mythological blueprints for hierarchical power ever created. In Greek mythology, Olympus is not a place of wisdom or harmony. It is a court. Zeus does not rule because he is morally superior. He rules because he won. He overthrew the Titans through force and then rewrote order in his favor. This matters because power in this system is not earned through justice, but stabilized through victory. Once Zeus sits on the throne, hierarchy becomes sacred. What was achieved by violence is preserved by law. Zeus is the god of lightning, not because lightning enlightens, but because it terrifies. He punishes swiftly and publicly. His authority is maintained not through care for humanity, but through fear of consequence. The Olympian gods beneath him mirror a structured society. Each god has a function. Ares embodies war, Athena strategy, Apollo reason and prophecy, Hera marriage, Poseidon the sea, Demeter agriculture. This division of divine labor teaches humans that order requires specialization and fixed roles. You are not meant to be everything. You are meant to stay in your domain. Conflict arises when boundaries are crossed and punishment follows immediately. Mortals who challenge gods are crushed, not because they are evil, but because they disrupt hierarchy. Prometheus is punished for sharing fire. Arachne is destroyed for skill. Niobe loses her children for pride. These stories are not about humility. They are about containment. They warn humans not to rise too high or question the vertical structure. The Olympians themselves are deeply flawed. They lie, cheat, rape, envy, and deceive. But these flaws are never punished in a way that threatens their power. This reveals the core lesson. Morality applies downward, not upward. Gods are exempt from the rules they enforce. This normalizes inequality at the deepest psychological level. If even the universe is ruled by unjust power, then injustice on Earth feels natural. Zeus is also obsessed with control over fate. He fears prophecy. He fears replacement. He swallows Metis to prevent a child stronger than him. This act is crucial. Power does not trust wisdom. Power consumes it. This shows that Zeus's rule is not secure because it is right, but because it is anxious. Olympus is a paranoid regime, constantly suppressing threats from below and within. Humans exist as spectators and victims of divine politics. When disasters happen, they are collateral damage of godly disputes. This teaches humans that suffering is not personal, it is structural. You are small, you are expendable. The Olympian system also reframes freedom as danger. Hubris, the desire to exceed limits, is the greatest sin. Not cruelty, not injustice, but overreaching. This discourages ambition and rewards submission. Heroes are celebrated only when they serve divine order. Heracles suffers endlessly. Odysseus wanders for years. Heroism is endurance, not change. The system remains untouched. In the end, Zeus and the Olympians do not offer salvation. They offer predictability. As long as hierarchy is respected, the world continues. This myth does not promise fairness. It promises stability. It tells humans that power is eternal, roles are fixed, and rebellion will always be punished. From this worldview, kings rule by divine favor. Laws mirror cosmic order, and inequality is not questioned because it reflects the structure of the universe itself. Zeus is not a father, he is a ceiling, and Olympus is not heaven. It is a reminder that authority sits above reason, watches without accountability, and survives by making resistance feel both futile and sinful. This is why the Olympian myth endured. Not because it was beautiful, but because it taught humans exactly where they stood and why they should stay there. Pandora is not a story about curiosity gone wrong. It is a story about responsibility being reassigned. In Greek mythology, Pandora is created not to help humanity, but to discipline it. After Prometheus gives fire to humans, Zeus does not punish humans directly. He designs a solution that looks like a gift. Pandora is crafted by the gods beautiful, charming, and convincing. She is sent to humanity carrying a sealed container, often called a box, but originally a jar. This container is not temptation, it is policy. When Pandora opens it, suffering escapes into the world. Disease, poverty, death, war, envy, despair, all spread instantly. The crucial detail is this: the evils were not created by humans. They were stored by the gods, and yet once released, the blame is shifted. The suffering becomes humanity's fault. This is the core function of the myth. It relocates responsibility away from authority and onto the governed. The gods create the conditions, but humans are blamed for the outcome. Pandora herself is punished not for malice, but for obedience. She does what she was designed to do. This reframes control as inevitability. You cannot avoid the trap because the system creates both the rule and the violation. The myth also introduces a dangerous idea that knowledge and curiosity are liabilities. Pandora does not commit violence. She opens, she looks, she acts, and this is enough to justify endless suffering. This teaches that harm does not require cruelty. It only requires disobedience to boundaries you were never meant to understand. At the bottom of the container remains hope. This detail is often misunderstood. Hope is not comfort here. Hope is containment. By leaving hope inside the box, the myth ensures that humans will endure suffering rather than resist it. Hope delays action. It encourages waiting, acceptance, endurance. As long as hope exists, Revolt feels premature. This is why hope is the most strategic element of the myth. It is not released freely, it is rationed. Pandora's box explains suffering without questioning power. It tells humans that pain is the natural result of curiosity that crossed a line. It discourages inquiry by associating it with catastrophe. It also establishes a gendered warning. Femininity, desire, and persuasion are framed as dangerous gateways. This legitimizes social suspicion and control under the guise of cosmic order. The gods remain untouched. They do not lose power. They do not suffer consequences. They watch as humanity internalizes guilt and adapts to pain. The system remains clean while the world below breaks. Pandora's box does not ask humans to challenge injustice. It teaches them to endure it with hope. This is why the myth endures. It offers an explanation that closes questions. It says suffering is not imposed. It was unleashed, and once unleashed, it cannot be returned. This removes the idea that suffering can be undone or redesigned. It can only be managed emotionally. Pandora is not the first sinner. She is the first scapegoat, and the box is not a mistake. It is a mechanism that ensures humans will suffer, blame themselves, and keep living inside a system that never needs to explain why the evils were locked there in the first place. Icarus is not a story about arrogance alone. It is a lesson about limits being enforced. The myth begins with imprisonment. Daedalus and Icarus are trapped not because they are evil, but because knowledge threatens authority. Daedalus knows too much. He builds too well, and skill without permission is dangerous. The escape he designs is ingenious. Wings made of feathers and wax, not magic, not divine, intermediate technology. This matters because the threat is not flight. The threat is humans solving problems themselves. Daedalus warns Icarus not to fly too high and not too low. This warning is not about safety. It is about obedience. Stay in the middle. Stay within boundaries. Do not test extremes. Icarus does not rebel violently. He does not attack gods. He simply experiences freedom, and that is enough. As he rises, the sun melts the wax, and he falls. The punishment is not delivered by Zeus or any god. It is built into the system. This is crucial. The myth teaches that transgression will be punished automatically. You do not need a god to strike you. The world itself will do it. This internalizes control. Freedom is framed as self-destructive. Ambition becomes recklessness. The sky is not forbidden because it is unjust. It is forbidden because it will kill you. This removes the need for moral debate. The system appears neutral. The lesson is quiet but brutal. You may have the means to rise, but you do not have the right. Icarus's death is not mourned by the universe. The sun continues to shine. The sea absorbs his body. Life goes on. This teaches insignificance. The world does not pause for individual aspiration. Icarus becomes an example not to inspire courage, but to warn against excess. His mistake is not ignorance. He knows the risk. He chooses intensity anyway, and intensity is portrayed as childish. This infantilizes desire for more. The myth does not celebrate exploration. It disciplines it. Daedalus survives because he obeys balance. He represents controlled intelligence. Icarus dies because he seeks experience beyond instruction. This creates a powerful psychological rule. Be clever but cautious, talented but restrained, curious but not too curious. The myth also protects hierarchy. If humans who rise too high always fall, then existing positions feel natural. Inequality becomes safety rather than injustice. Better to stay low than to risk annihilation. Icarus does not fail because he lacked skill. He fails because he crossed an invisible ceiling, and the ceiling is the real subject of the myth. It exists, it cannot be seen, and touching it is fatal. This story has endured because it trains self-limitation. You do not need chains if people believe that going higher will destroy them. Icarus teaches that freedom is not denied, it is punished. And punishment is framed not as cruelty but as consequence. This makes the system untouchable. You cannot accuse the sun, you cannot argue with gravity, you can only fall. This is why Icarus is remembered, not as a hero, not as a villain, but as a warning carved into the sky. You may dream, you may build wings, but if you forget your place, the world will remind you, and it will do so without mercy, without explanation, and without apology. Hades and the Greek underworld are not symbols of evil, they are symbols of final order. In Greek mythology, Hades does not torture the dead out of cruelty. He organizes them. The underworld is not chaos, it is administration. Once a soul enters it, there is no debate, no appeal, and no escape. This is crucial because the myth does not threaten with pain first. It threatens with permanence. Death is not terrifying because it hurts. Death is terrifying because it fixes your place forever. The underworld is divided. Elysium for the favored, Asphodel for the ordinary, Tartarus for the defiant. This structure mirrors society exactly. It tells humans that hierarchy does not end with life. It becomes eternal. You may endure inequality now, but it will be confirmed later. This removes urgency from justice. If balance is guaranteed after death, then injustice today becomes tolerable. Hades himself is distant, silent, and emotionless. He does not seduce, he does not persuade, he waits. This makes him more powerful than angry gods. He does not need to intervene because the system runs on inevitability. Charon ferries souls across the river Styx. This crossing is irreversible. Payment is required. Even death has a fee. This reinforces the idea that nothing is free and no transition is without cost. Cerberus guards the gate not to keep souls out, but to keep them in. This detail matters. The underworld is not a prison to protect the living. It is a containment system to prevent return. Once judged, you stay. This removes hope of reversal or rebellion. The dead do not rise to demand justice. They remain categorized and silent. The myth also teaches restraint in life. If consequences are eternal, experimentation becomes dangerous. Risk becomes irrational. Why challenge God's law or fate if the penalty lasts forever? The underworld turns fear into calculation. People live carefully not because they are compassionate, but because they are cautious. Hades is not a tyrant. He is a clerk of destiny. He enforces rules already written. This makes the system appear neutral. There is no anger to argue with, no passion to exploit, just procedure. This procedural afterlife is one of the most effective control myths ever created. It does not promise reward loudly, it promises closure. It says everything will be settled later. This later absorbs anger and postpones resistance. The living accept suffering because the dead are supposedly accounted for. The myth also isolates rebellion. Heroes who descend like Orpheus or Heracles do not dismantle the system. They barely escape and often fail. Orpheus loses Eurydice because he looks back. This reinforces another rule. Do not doubt the process. Do not check. Do not question. Finally, the underworld teaches insignificance. Your life is a brief prelude to a much longer stillness. Your choices are recorded, your fate assigned, and then you are quiet. This quiet is the goal, not justice, not healing, not freedom, silence. Hades and the underworld do not threaten humanity with fire. They threaten it with finality, and finality is far more effective. Because a world where nothing can be changed after death encourages obedience before it. And that is why Hades does not need worship. He needs acceptance. As long as people believe their place will be fixed forever, they will hesitate to move out of place now. This is the real power of the underworld myth. It does not rule the dead. It disciplines the living. Icarus is not a story about arrogance alone. It is a lesson about limits being enforced. The myth begins with imprisonment. Daedalus and Icarus are trapped not because they are evil, but because knowledge threatens authority. Daedalus knows too much. He builds too well, and skill without permission is dangerous. The escape he designs is ingenious. Wings made of feathers and wax, not magic, not divine, intermediate technology. This matters because the threat is not flight. The threat is humans solving problems themselves. Daedalus warns Icarus not to fly too high and not too low. This warning is not about safety. It is about obedience. Stay in the middle. Stay within boundaries. Do not test extremes. Icarus does not rebel violently. He does not attack gods. He simply experiences freedom, and that is enough. As he rises, the sun melts the wax, and he falls. The punishment is not delivered by Zeus or any god. It is built into the system. This is crucial. The myth teaches that transgression will be punished automatically. You do not need a god to strike you. The world itself will do it. This internalizes control. Freedom is framed as self-destructive. Ambition becomes recklessness. The sky is not forbidden because it is unjust. It is forbidden because it will kill you. This removes the need for moral debate. The system appears neutral. The lesson is quiet but brutal. You may have the means to rise, but you do not have the right. Icarus's death is not mourned by the universe. The sun continues to shine. The sea absorbs his body. Life goes on. This teaches insignificance. The world does not pause for individual aspiration. Icarus becomes an example not to inspire courage, but to warn against excess. His mistake is not ignorance. He knows the risk. He chooses intensity anyway, and intensity is portrayed as childish. This infantilizes desire for more. The myth does not celebrate exploration. It disciplines it. Daedalus survives because he obeys balance. He represents controlled intelligence. Icarus dies because he seeks experience beyond instruction. This creates a powerful psychological rule. Be clever but cautious, talented but restrained, curious but not too curious. The myth also protects hierarchy. If humans who rise too high always fall, then existing positions feel natural. Inequality becomes safety rather than injustice. Better to stay low than to risk annihilation. Icarus does not fail because he lacked skill. He fails because he crossed an invisible ceiling, and the ceiling is the real subject of the myth. It exists, it cannot be seen, and touching it is fatal. This story has endured because it trains self-limitation. You do not need chains if people believe that going higher will destroy them. Icarus teaches that freedom is not denied, it is punished. And punishment is framed not as cruelty but as consequence. This makes the system untouchable. You cannot accuse the sun, you cannot argue with gravity, you can only fall. This is why Icarus is remembered, not as a hero, not as a villain, but as a warning carved into the sky. You may dream, you may build wings, but if you forget your place, the world will remind you, and it will do so without mercy, without explanation, and without apology. And when we look at all these myths together, one truth becomes clear. Myths were never just ancient stories. They were systems built not to explain the world, but to position humans within it. They soothed fear but did not expand freedom. They offered hope but delayed choice. They replaced questions not with answers, but with silence. They presented gods not as protectors, but as carriers of rules. And for thousands of years they repeated the same message. The world does not change. You must adapt. This video was not made to destroy myths. It was made to understand why we created them. Because myths did not stay in the past. They survived by changing names, forms, and symbols, but the mechanism remained the same. The same fear, the same comforting explanations, the same quiet obedience. If these ideas resonate with you, if you want to look at history not just as a list of events, but as a pattern of control and belief, subscribe to the channel. This is a place where stories are not told to soothe, but to awaken. And remember, myths did not last because they protected humanity. They lasted because they organized it. If you've stayed with us this far, then you already understand what this channel is really about. This is not a place where history is told as dates and heroes. This is not a place where myths are repeated as harmless stories. Here we look at history as a system. We ask uncomfortable questions. We examine why certain ideas survived and who they served when they did. On this channel, you won't just hear what happened. You'll hear why it was allowed to happen, why it was justified, why it was remembered the way it was. This channel is built for people who feel that something about history has always been missing. For people who sensed that myths, religions, empires, and ideologies were not only about belief, but about control. For people who want to understand how fear, hope, and obedience were engineered long before modern politics existed. We explore ancient myths, forgotten civilizations, philosophical ideas, and hidden patterns that shaped human behavior across thousands of years. From Mesopotamia to Greece, from Egypt to Mesoamerica, from Norse gods to Eastern cycles, we look at how stories molded societies and disciplined minds. Here you'll find long-form historical and philosophical videos that don't rush and don't simplify. We take one idea and follow it deeply. We connect myths to power. We connect belief to behavior. We connect ancient systems to the modern world without shouting and without preaching. These are videos meant to be watched slowly, thought about deeply, and remembered long after they end. If you're tired of surface-level history, if you're tired of being told what to think instead of being invited to think, if you're drawn to dark, quiet, atmospheric storytelling that respects your intelligence, then this channel is for you. By subscribing, you're not just supporting a channel. You're joining a space where questions are allowed and silence is broken carefully, not loudly. New videos on this channel will continue to explore themes like why truth is often punished before it is accepted, why cruelty is rewarded by history more often than compassion, how myths turned fear into order, why freedom has always been dangerous, and how ancient beliefs still shape modern behavior. We'll talk about gods, empires, philosophers, forgotten figures, and uncomfortable ideas that most channels avoid. So if you want to keep walking through history with open eyes, if you want stories that don't comfort but clarify, make sure to subscribe. Turn on notifications so you don't miss what comes next. Because the past is not dead. It is active. And understanding it is the first step toward understanding ourselves.